Good morning, everyone. Welcome to TEDx Youth Academy New York 2022. I'm Delaney, the license holder of this year's event, and I'm so excited to be here. This is the third event that our school has, and also my third year in TEDx. Organizing, planning, and designing a TEDx is a big endeavor, so I truly and great appreciate to all of the organizers, volunteers from EFTV, Mr. Fai, Mr. Balash, and of course our speakers. So it is time for TED.
Welcome to something special. Welcome to TEDx special. Welcome to TEDx. This TEDx event is part of a global conversation that takes place every day in every corner of the world. In schools, in theaters, in workplaces, even in prisons, people gather to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. More than 3,000 TEDx events are held every year in 170 countries. It's a remarkable thing. TEDx events are self-organized under a license from TED, a non-profit organization devoted to discovering and sharing powerful ideas in the form of TED Talks. It's not TED itself, but your local TEDx team of volunteers that has done all the work to put on today's event, including booking all of the speakers. It's this team's ideas, dedication, and time that have made this possible. We really hope today's program sparks an exciting conversation. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you will take out. And now, on with the show.
Now, let's welcome our first speaker, Isabella Zangirolami from Italy, and she will be talking about rules.
Hi. For the first 3 years of elementary school, I was the worst student in the entire school. I did not get good grades, and I really did not care about it. I was constantly punished. I was constantly in and out of the principal's office. The teachers made me write down the things I had done wrong. I wrote down so many negative comments about my own behavior that my remaining hand got covered in blisters. And soon, I developed self-consciousness about my mental capabilities and a deep fear towards adults. I thought people didn't want Bella, people wanted someone else. So I learned to lie because I was now scared to get punished. One day, I told my classmates I was bilingual because I was not even Italian. The next day, I said I was able to make, all by myself, the prettiest and most sophisticated clothes, and that my father was actually teaching me how to drive in the mall's parking lot. Of course, no one believed me, but it was my way of escaping from reality. I felt so bad about myself that I came into a cycle of self-pity and easy detectable lies, even when it was not necessary. But I didn't really care about it, because that was my little way of taking revenge. I wanted to appear like the big fish who knows how the real things are done. I wanted to appear smarter, older, enough, so that teachers didn't dare to go against me, nor consider me inferior anymore. For me, they were in the wrong. They were punishing me, discriminating me from the rest of the community, just for a bunch of bad grades. 1 year later, as I moved to my mother's house as a consequence of my parents' divorce, I finally got to 4th grade, the year in which my English teacher asked me to take attendance. Why me? I thought everyone was ashamed of me. I didn't really understand why such an important charge had come to me. I became Isabella Zangirolami, official attendance taker, section B, grade 4. Well, that changed my life, because I finally felt like someone was believing in me. And from having the lowest average of my class, I became the best student of the whole school. From being an introvert and stuttering child, I became the most outgoing child you could have ever laid your eyes on. I had the best notes, I had the best grades, I was proactive in class. And I even managed to get scolded for arriving too early at school. Here I am now, with many achievements that I would have probably never gotten if I didn't have that teacher in 4th grade. If I didn't believe I was able to have ability, if I didn't try, if I didn't work for it. I bet we all have had to face through at least once in our life, a set of boundaries with which we got to play with since the earliest stages of our life. But this leads us to another question. What are rules? And why are they even there? Why and what is the purpose of getting punished after breaking a rule? Well, this is Gerardo Colombo, a former Italian magistrate with over 33 years of experience. In 2008, he published a book, Under Rules, and according to his book, rules are a set of normatives, and as a consequence, a hierarchy is naturally established. Therefore, it is inevitable to create groups which are in advantage and groups which get discriminated against before they're even born. This makes the system unfair, hypercritical, and discriminatory when giving punishments. A good analogy with this are prisons. In Italy, if you do a crime, the lawbreaker gets to lose a big chunk of what we define as human rights. Cells in Italy are about 1.80 meters times 2.40 meters big. One sink, one toilet, plus 2 extra roommates. If you're lucky enough, you get to have a window. In the best scenario, you get to have 1 hour outside your cell per day and just 10 minutes to chat with your family per week. Imagine that. You lost your dignity, you lost your privacy, and your ability to find a good job in the future. Now think about it. Do you think you're going to be happy, grateful to your government, or do you think you're going to condemn it? Do you feel you even have a choice? To give you some visuals, with the traditional criminal justice system, Italy has up to 68% as recidivism rate. This means that almost 7 people out of 10 go back to criminality every 5 years after going to prison. With the same system, United States up to 76.6%, France 59%, Germany 40%. Clearly not an efficient system. Now, these same dynamics fall in other types of relationships, like parents and children, teachers and students, and in every other case in which punishment is present. Because punishment is not based on education, it's based on revenge. Punishment, in fact, is the failure of education. Because with fear, doing things right is easy as long as you're in control. But as soon as you don't see it, people go back to their old habits. So, what do we do with this? You do exactly what my English teacher did in 4th grade. You give responsibility, you don't take it away. You take care and help those who took something away from you. Now, this might sound like a cliche, but treat like you want to be treated. Because it is thanks to this that people like me got the chance to see hope, got the chance to change, and get better. Thank you.
Now, welcome our second speaker, Namita Elmi from Bangladesh, and she will be talking about the reality of privilege.
Hi, let me begin with a simple question. What is your favorite clothing brand? For me, I love to shop at mainstream stores like Forever 21, H&M, or Zara. It's pretty, okay quality, and affordable. And so, some time ago, on one of my trips to H&M, while I was going through their racks, I noticed one common trend. Made in Bangladesh written over and over again in the backs of t-shirts, dresses, and skirts of different styles, colors, and designs. Now, many of you probably have never noticed these tags or even have heard of Bangladesh. This is quite common actually. But then, where is Bangladesh? I'll give you a small hint. Bangladesh is not India. This country, located at the edge of Asia and independent only 50 years ago, has been growing fast. Yet, it is still struggling significantly, and not because of the common misconception that Bangladesh has less skilled or less qualified or less educated people, but because of inequality. The inequality all of us here, including me, contribute to, knowingly or unknowingly, when we decide to support the stores I mentioned earlier. Yes, Forever 21, H&M, but also Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, and many, many more. For people in my country, this means multi-million-dollar corporations paying the average factory worker $100 a month in conditions far worse than we can ever imagine, in factories that destroy the environment, all in the name of keeping profits high and making the rich richer. Our favorite brands are the ones who are failing us, and the perfect example of their unethical practices would be the Rana Plaza tragedy, which took place on 24th April 2013, when a garment factory collapsed, crushing, suffocating, and killing 1,134 individuals and permanently injuring hundreds more. This tragedy is not unique and is bound to repeat. Yet, for people who shop at Zara or H&M or any of the others, they probably have never heard of this incident or the numerous tragedies which have also taken place. This is ignorance, and this is privilege. This leads to my next question. How many of us are aware that two realities exist, that a world outside of our own lives and breathes and functions, and that they both rotate around the sun together? I was always aware of the two distinct realities, one clean and the other dirty, one with steady roads painted black and traffic lights blinking red, green, and yellow, yellow signs for directions and zebra crossings for pedestrians. So much organization and a place for everything. This is the developed world. But the world I come from is messy. Cobblestone streets wetting from humidity, and lines of cars, buses, autos, rickshaws, and trucks creating never-ending traffic. Piles of garbage, plastic, or litter piled high on the sides, and threads of black wires hanging above us. Here, people are overflowing. In the non-existent sidewalks, in the middle of roads, in buses and cars, everywhere. People selling handmade junk for 20 cents. People begging for money. People trying to survive. In this world, nothing is easy. Not going to work or school or even buying food. Their days are shorter with less time for everything, while something as small as roads rarely make a dent on ours. This is convenience, and this is privilege. We view the world with rose-tinted glasses, but the reality is that privilege exists in nooks and crannies everywhere. It's unfair because of the inequality it represents, where some win based on their gender, or race, or sexual orientation, or physical appearance, and others lose. Thus, it is our responsibility to understand these differences, to judge all people fairly, and to give everyone the same opportunities. I spent hours on those roads, and my people still spend years in poverty. There was never a moment I was unaware of my privilege. How could I be when I had the luxury to sit in air-conditioned cars while people tapped on my window, asking for taka, 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 money? I could not ignore this world, but I was also part of a world so different from this, a world without so many people living on the streets. It was almost like I was living two lives, one in Bangladesh and the other with those who once colonized us. Gradually, there was a struggle within me. I felt guilt for having this life, a life only 10% of a population of 165 million people can have. A life that I did not work for, a life that I did not earn, a life that was given to me. Yet, it was only when I stepped out of the bubble of privilege that I was born into, that I finally understood why my grandparents and parents distributed food at orphanages and hospitals every time we had something to celebrate, or donate clothes during Eid, or blankets in winter, or help the less privileged in their every sickness and every joy. And so I started learning from them to be like them, and I started working with charities that tackle taboos, created awareness, and tried to alleviate poverty as much as they could. But I only just started this journey, and there's a long way for me to go. But I'm so glad that I finally have started. Now, here's the twist. I'm not saying don't shop at Zara or H&M or any of the others, because at the end of the day, these people who are earning $100 a month have families to feed and bills to pay. So that $100 is something, but it's not enough. It's not nearly enough for them to escape the cycle of poverty or to stop struggling for the rest of their lives. So, today, I am asking you to take action, to use your power, your voice, to help those who are in need, to ask these corporations to pay their workers fairly, to help the people who are less privileged than us. And you can do this by creating awareness, donating to organizations like the Awaj Foundation, or signing petitions. Today, let's build a community inclusive of everyone, a society built on fairness rather than privilege, and a world different from the one of yesterday. Thank you.
Now, let's welcome our third speaker, Artem from Ukraine, and he will be talking about and not versus.
14,000 people. This is the official number of casualties in the war between Ukraine and Russia, which happened in 2014. And 13,468 of these people were Ukrainian, including 3,400 peaceful civilians. It will take many hours if we're going to speak about the political side of this ridiculous conflict, but I want to speak of my perspective as a life of young person which is divided between these two countries, Ukraine and Russia. My mother is Ukrainian, and I was born in Moscow, Russia. The rest of my relatives live in Ukraine, in the city named Odessa, which is located on the shore of the Black Sea. There, in our house in my childhood years, I used to spend all summer long, waking up early in the morning, going to the beach with my brother and our granddad. There, we were eating ice cream and hiding this fact like it was an important secret because my grandmother was cooking us soup for lunch. Spending afternoons swimming in the pool, walking in the garden, cherishing the taste of home-raised fruits and vegetables, strawberry, bramble, figs, grape, tomatoes, and cucumbers larger than our cat, peaches with more juice in them than in the actual juice. Half of our home was a guest house, and thousands of people were coming starting in May and staying until September to simply enjoy this feeling of being home, to eat this real fresh food and spend mornings by the sea and evenings in splendid Art Deco restaurants. These were my mother's friends, kids who I used to study with in Moscow, tourists from England, France, Italy, and Turkey. So the late 2000s and early 10s were spent in abundance, love, and peace. But this all suddenly ended in 2014. Now, people staying in our hotel were from the areas affected by the war, who were trying to save their lives. And they didn't spend days by the pool or on the beach. They were sitting in front of the TV, watching news to see what is happening to their home. The war destroyed tourism. Russian people who were bringing the most of income to the country and to my family now were restricted. Airplane connections stopped. It used to take around 5 hours for me, my brother, and our mom from getting in the taxi to the airport in Moscow until drinking grandmother's lemonade in our backyard. Now, we had to spend more than 24 hours on an uncomfortable, stifling bus which turns your back into some geometric shape and make your legs swell like you're in the last month of pregnancy. My mother was in sincere fear every time we were crossing the border because she didn't know, will we be allowed to pass it, or the officers will dislike something in the way we look and will take us off the bus in the middle of nowhere. The road from house to home turned into a torture. Back in 2015, my grandfather was one of the passengers on the very last flight from Moscow to Odessa. And 3 years later, when he died, the funeral is set to be postponed so his daughter and grandchildren would be able to get there on that damn bus. I remember how I wasn't upset. I was feeling complete emptiness sitting the whole day and night in this bus thinking how I will see him lying in the coffin. This person who was building all the airplanes and sports out of wood for my brother. And this all is because of the conflict, not between the countries, but because of the conflict between several men. Their conflict doesn't mean that people stopped sharing their life between Ukraine and Russia. There are thousands of families like mine. And it's so painful to see how mutual relationships, which were built in centuries, are now falling apart in front of your eyes. How easy it is to ruin something so big and how hard it would be to repair it. What else is painful is that there was no war for Russia. In history classes in Russian school, you would be told that there was no war, just a conflict. One of the deadliest wars of 21st century is just a conflict. When in Ukraine, in the center of Kiev, there is a wall, hundreds of meters long, and it's all covered in the names of people who fell victims in Ukrainian-Russian war. This really brought a feeling of separation. I don't remember how it feels to sit at the big table with all of the family members, how it is to celebrate Christmas or New Year together, because people just can't get at one place. All these moments were taken away. This made my mom put the house up for sale and put all of our family into the sorrow. For me, it was the only place I was able to call a home. The only place where my good childhood memories were coming from. But who needs to buy a house in the country surrounded by 1,000 tanks, right? So we got of outbreak of the war again. What I want to over the lives of millions of people in their countries and their well-being. They are ruining this friendship Ukraine and Russia used to have. And no matter which current situation is going to end, remember that there are always people who can see their relatives, people who don't make enough money to buy themselves food, people who have no peace. Remember this. And cherish what you have like you're cherishing the juiciest peach or any other fruit you like. Remember, cherish, and dream. Thank you.
Please welcome our fourth speaker, Yonse Nam from South Korea, and she will be talking about between English and
Hi. It all started with a simple question. How do I explain that I don't belong to English when I belong nowhere else? I want all of you to embrace your own language just a bit more. But the fact that I'm talking to you in English already contradicts something. When I was 4 years old, I started learning English in preschool. I gathered new words and expressions like treasures, and I spoke a lot, not knowing how. There were more things I didn't know how to say than the ones I did, both in Korean and in English. By the time I turned 10, it felt like I've been living two different lives, speaking English at school and Korean at home. I remember at 12 years old, I forgot the word microwave in Korean. I was helping my mom prepare dinner, and suddenly I stumbled across my words. I couldn't seem to figure out what it was called, so I just pointed at it, feeling helpless. My mom thought it was strange. But soon, it wasn't just the microwave anymore. It was the table, the cabinet, and a few more words. The words didn't fall into places naturally like they used to, and I needed more and more time to reach into my mind and tug them out onto my tongue. The same thing happened with English. At school, my head was full of thoughts and ideas to share, but the only way to get them out was with my native language. I realized I wasn't the same person when I spoke English. And here's why. Language represents specific stages in our lives, and each word is linked to our emotions. It relates to how we think, how we see each other, and how others see us. All my ideas, imaginations, and memories were engraved in my identity in the form of the Korean language. So needless to say, I was struggling to express myself without it. In fact, I still hate talking about my culture in English. As soon as people hear the unfamiliar syllables of salal or tteokguk, my experiences immediately become flat and overshadowed. To me, rice cake soup is not the same thing as tteokguk, but that's the only way to explain it. The translation does not remind me of the same warmth of the soup, the New Year wishes, or the happiness I felt sharing it with my family. It's even worse for Tesa, a memorial ceremony for the ancestors where my dad and uncles wear funny hats and bow in order of age. That's not my dad, by the way. The table is set with rice, soup, meat, vegetable, fish, and other pickled food, but to describe each dish in English would be impossible. Just like a billion other people around the world who speak English as a secondary language, English often feels like homework. It has been for a long time, whether it's memorizing basic words like apple or filling in the blanks with the right form of conjugation. There are still thousands of things I don't understand about English. Rough, cough, though, and through all sound completely different? Why we need to switch from go to went, take to took, and fight to fought? And do we really need 4 extra vowels to spell the word Q? I mean, think about it. And yes, I'm still lost in translation, somewhere between the dictionary and Google Translate. Maybe some of you feel this way. Others not even think about it. For me, my second language made me a little more hesitant and burdened me with frustration. The feeling that I will never be fully understood by anyone. But here I am talking to all of you in English. And if it weren't for English, you wouldn't be able to understand any of what I'm saying right now. So no, I'm not here to take it away from you. My new goal, however, is not to sound like a native speaker, but to say the things they cannot say otherwise. I want to clearly explain my ideas coming from my own unique experiences. Speaking more than one language should not be a barrier to any of us. It should help us find new ways to communicate and different topics to talk about. Now I'm inviting you to do the same. Instead of avoiding to speak up, say whatever's on your mind. If some people don't understand, try the rest of the school, the rest of the class, or the rest of the world. Say something different. Talk with your accent. And most importantly, use language as a tool of communication. And maybe then, we'll realize that we all have something to say. Thank you.
Now, please welcome our speaker, Claudia Ho from Hong Kong, and she will be talking about Star.
Good morning. Let me ask you a question first. What is your dream? My mother started taking me to study music when I was 2 years old. Soon after, my music teacher told my parents that I had a real talent for music. So they got me more lessons. Then I began entering competitions and sometimes winning. I also started to study different instruments such as cello, trombone, saxophone, and others. I loved all of them, and I competed on these instruments too. My parents talked to me about making a career for music. We invest a lot in your lessons, so make it your goal. But for me, I just want to work in an office, make money. This was the normal life I saw surrounding me. But to please my parents, and because I enjoyed the lessons, I continued studying. When I was 14, my school teacher's husband, who is a popular music producer in Hong Kong, heard my recordings. He encouraged me and found me a new piano teacher. This teacher not only taught piano, the recordings, production, and other aspects of music. Then I began work on my own song. She also brought me to different recording sections. In there, I worked along with singers, did some production, and was treated as equal by professional. I knew then, this would be my goal. Today, I'm playing around 15 instruments. In 2021, I released my first original single, Love Castle. I sang, wrote, produced, and played almost all of the instruments on it. I was very proud of myself and felt like finally the world would hear me. On the next day, a student in my school came up to me and said, "I heard the song. It's not professional enough." I tried to ignore this comment, but then I checked online comments. Most of them are very negative. "You're not pretty. You're affecting my ears. Just go and get plastic surgery." This all went through a long time. The imperfection of this song and people's opinions of my appearance became a thing that everyone can scold me for. I continued to work on the next song in a heartbreaking mood. One day, I felt so stressed. Tears fell from the corner of my eyes. I asked myself, is this really what you want? Do you have the courage to keep going? I wrote song all the way until next morning. Finally, I gave myself an answer. I said, it took you 15 years to release your first single. Start to do what you want to do. Faced with a strange field, I've not yet given up. I ignored everything and just go through the road which I chose. I found that music turned out to be my best friend. It knows the deepest part of my heart best. It is most willing to accept the negative energy unconditionally, and is willing to accept every tears of mine. Music is the inner and true me. What kind of melody I hear, what picture I feel. The emotions expressed by every song is the truest me and cannot be faked. I release other songs. Still, some negative, critical comments, but also some very good ones. And now, someone followed my music. But could I break through in 2021? I asked myself. I chose to write songs about my dream-chasing experience and release my first album in my life. Nowadays, my album released on different music platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, and etc. I also want to share with you the topic of my speech, Dream is like a star, is exactly the same as my album's quote, which always reminds me to follow the star, to chase the star. I think when I was 13, I certainly didn't expect that today I can have these listeners who would like to listen to my music. I didn't expect that my dream can come true. Today, I release my own song. I have my album, and I own 3 companies in Hong Kong. One is an entertainment company. Its main business are music production, artist management, also responsible for film production, as well as multimedia. And other 2 is my own brand. I don't regret on any choice I made in the past 16 years. I tried my very best on everything. There are still something pushing me to the forefront, but I'm no longer afraid because every step is tempering, every step is learning, and every step is growth. I know I've gained far more than I've lost. How did each step come through? How did I make my unswerving choice to start? I keep it in my heart. I know singing and composing are definitely something I will do in my whole life, but it won't be the only thing that I can do. I know this now. What matter I do, someone will criticize it. Someone will hate it. What matters are, do I love it? Do I believe in myself? No matter what decision I make, I will respect my choice. I think this is the super energy that young people have. Don't be afraid of anything. Go all out and do what you want to do, and you can become the best version of yourself. Thank you.
So thank you so much for the talk given by the last speaker. At the end, I want to say for all the talk, I hope that all the talk delivered by the speakers today will inspire and motivate you in the future, because that's why TEDx exists. We bring the best idea to the stage, because ideas worth spreading. Once again, thank you so much for all the people who make this event happen. And thank you so much for listening. Have a good day. So for one more thing that we would like your guys to help is in order for us to have a complete TEDx experience, a short survey is going to send to all of your guys' email. Please take a minute to complete this survey. We really needed to make this whole TEDx event. So thank you so much.